Now, there's a foster carer shortage in Australia, meaning that many of the 55,000 children living in out-of-home care often end up staying in hotel rooms with their caseworkers or in group residential homes. A new campaign is hoping to find new carers who may not have considered fostering.
Yeah, it's called Grow Your Pride, and it's from My Forever Family New South Wales. It addresses the common misconception that members of the LGBTI community can't foster children, and they're looking to recruit new foster carers from around the country. One gay married couple, Brendan and Paul Upcroft, began fostering and later adopted two brothers. They join us now. Brendan and Paul, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Tell us how your story began.
We started talking about having a family about 6 weeks after we met. And initially we looked at foster care as being the option we were going to pursue. Went through a whole heap of different considerations, looked at surrogacy, looked at having a co-parenting with a friend, but we eventually came back to fostering. And it was because at that stage it was 48,000 kids needed some care, and we believe that giving a home to children who already existed in Australia who really needed our love and attention was the way to go.
What was the criteria for becoming foster carers? What sort of boxes did you have to tick?
Just that we had a loving home to give these children. There's some safety checks that are done about the house, and then you're actually assessed. And Bernardo's the agency that we went through, along with My Forever Family, go through a checklist of that you have the needs required for these children. A lot of them come from a traumatic background. How would you deal with trauma and things like that? So there is an assessment process. There's about 6 assessments that you go through. They're detailed, but it's just finding that you're the right match for those kids.
Did it take a long time?
With Bernardo's, it was 6 months. It literally took us 6 months, and we were lucky enough that our sons that we have now were pre-matched with us because they'd been in the system themselves for 5 years. They'd been in 9 different placements. So you think when our boys came to us, they were 7 and 10.
We're just looking at a picture of them.
Yeah, so that was on our wedding day.
Oh.
So they'd been moved 9 times by 10. Who moves that many times? So for a 10-year-old child to move that much, it's just traumatic and it's daunting for them.
I have some friends over in the States where I had been living who were applying to foster kids, and they did find that process of matching and then the verification that they were okay was actually so long and so arduous and so detailed that at some point they sort of felt, well, hang on, aren't we a lot better than whatever it is that the kids have at the moment? Just let us foster as we can, rather than impeding the ability of these kids to find a home that is at least better than whatever they've got.
And I think every foster carer goes through that moment in the assessment task where they go, wow, we'd have to be better than where they've come from. But the reality is what they're looking to ensure is that there's going to be some consistency and some stability for the kids, because that's something they've not had previously.
Why hadn't your son had that consistency? Was it because it hadn't been a right fit with other foster families? Is it because those foster families weren't screened adequately?
It's hard to say whether they're screened properly or not. But sometimes it's just they're putting to a home that is not the right fit. So you've got to evaluate, is this working for the child? Because it's the well-being of the child that's more important. It's not the foster parents, it's the child. Are they surviving? Are they thriving? Are they getting all the needs that they need? Some foster kids go from the frying pan into the fire. Because the assessments weren't done properly. But from our experience, the detail that they go into with these assessments, they're getting the right people. They're making the right match. Things from 5 to... so the boys have been in the system for 10 years, so things from 10 years ago are a lot different now.
I guess it would vary from organisation to organisation, but what's the support like out there for you once you get the kids?
Yeah. There are some horror stories out there about some agencies or the facts themselves not supporting. That certainly wasn't our experience. We had a very supportive agency who were there to help us every step of the way. They would make recommendations, they would provide financial support. So it's a very different industry now that the agencies are managing those relationships.
So what would be if you had a message to give someone who might be considering this, what would be that message?
What have you got to lose? Yes, it may feel a bit invasive with the assessments, but the support is there. My Forever Family have a web presence. They're out actively giving additional training, and all you need. And parenting for anyone is scary. Whether it's foster parenting, you're pregnant, and then the mum goes into hospital ready to have a baby, and the night before you're like, oh my God, I'm about to have a baby. There's a baby. I'm going to be responsible for another life, which is exactly what we did. The day before the boys came, it's like, tomorrow I'm going to have 2 more children that I have to take care of and protect and look after. So I suggest, if you're really thinking about fostering, really look into it. Especially in the rainbow community, there seems to be a shift from the next generation where they want to become parents. I read an article yesterday that millennials, or the gay community and millennials, want to have kids, whereas the generation before us, probably not so much, because it wasn't there. The laws weren't there. We couldn't get married. We couldn't even foster or adopt 20 years ago. Now we can, and it's open to us. So take a risk, take a chance. You will find someone that will change your life.
You're quite right that it's going to be a big deal regardless of how you do it, isn't it? You've never met parents of a young child who they've just had in the traditional way say, oh, it wasn't a big deal. No, nothing much changed. Everything is going to change.
Everything.
No matter how you do it. So
that's right. And we were saying to someone the other day, before the boys came along, we could walk down the street where we live in the Hunter Valley and not talk to anybody. Now the boys are there. We get stopped. Someone in the soccer team, karate club, everyone talks to us because they've changed and enriched our lives more, I think, than we've enriched theirs.
Agreed.
Fantastic. All the best with it. And Brendan and Paul, thanks for coming down.
Thanks
for driving all this way to speak to us this morning. Thanks.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty early to have already driven 2 hours.
I know.
I admire that.
Impressive.
Yeah.